Gotta get that clock right. Good afternoon. City of Chester deliberative meeting, Monday, September 9th, 2024. Looking to my left and right, we have all council and myself present. So we'll get started. Mr. Solicitor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of council, members of the public, welcome to the Monday, September 9th, 2024 deliberative meeting for the City of Chester. The following ordinances are before council to be voted on. Final reading, Bill number 6, ordinance number 5, amending Article 507 entitled Vehicle Operation, amending Section 507.06 entitled One-Way Streets of Article 507 by adding new subsection, parentheses B, E, and parentheses, to adopt a new traffic circulation plan to be implemented on West Union Street between Jeffrey Street to Yarnell Street, which shall be one-way northeast. Final reading of Bill number 7, amending ordinance number 16 of 2023. Amending ordinance number 16 of 2023 entitled 2024 Budget, providing for compensation adjustments, corrections, modifications, and changes in organizational alignments for use during the 2024 calendar year.
That will be first reading, not final.
Did I say final? It says first. Here, I'm sorry if I said final. First reading of Bill number 8, enacting Article 133 entitled Police and Fire Civil Service Commission. Amending Article 133 entitled Civil Service in its entirety and enacting new Article 133 entitled Police and Fire Civil Service Commission of the codified ordinances of the City of Chester to provide for and oversee the examination of applicants for an appointment to any position that requires testing in the police and fire departments. In addition to the aforementioned ordinances, the following resolutions will be before council for final passage. Resolution 90. Authorize the proper city officials to install a handicap parking zone in the unit block of East 22nd Street and in the 1000 block of McDowell Avenue in the City of Chester. Resolution 91. Authorize the approval of the local operating procedures agreement between the City of Chester Police Department and the Pennsylvania State Police in order to provide coordinated and efficient police services to Harrah's Philadelphia Casino and Racetrack located at 777 Harrah's Boulevard within the City of Chester by outlining a mutually beneficial arrangement that enables both parties to efficiently and cooperatively provide services within the areas of the casino. Resolution 92. Authorize the issuance of a road opening permit to Delcora for sewer separation on Townsend Street in the north end near Amtrak to a point approximately 100 feet north of Seaport Drive. Resolution 93. To authorize the final land development approval to the plan for Jack Surgent to construct a 7,750 square foot gymnasium addition to the existing community center located at 701 Booth Street, Chester, PA 19013. Resolution 94. Authorize the final land development approval for Gallo Brothers Development LLC to construct a 32,100 square foot, 6-story self-storage facility together with associated parking and landscaping located at 1020 Morton Avenue, Chester, PA 19013. And finally, Resolution 95, authorize entering into the Delaware County Green Waste Municipal Grant Program Agreement between the City of Chester, County of Delaware, Redevelopment Authority of the City of Chester, and the Chester Economic Development Authority for the Chester Freak Trail Parker Manor Connector Project. That would conclude the list.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Do we have any questions from council?
Yes, 94. Gallo Brothers. Do they have, are they in compliance, you know, because we've always had concerns and problems over the years. I'd like to know what their standing is now.
Come to the mic.
Good afternoon.
Good
So
afternoon.
when you ask in compliance, I guess I think
Like
I
with
need a
their other
specific
proper-
question.
With their other properties, you know,
Well, we
that they-
can't, we only can take into consideration the property that they're applying for in planning. And they submitted this in February of 2023 to Peter, and they were up to date on taxes on this parcel that they're doing this project on.
So they're not in, they're in compliance with their rental properties and all like that?
So we only can address the application that's presented to us in zoning.
So
We can't witch hunt.
Councilwoman, to answer your question, my understanding is that there are unpaid taxes on numerous other parcels. However, requirement of payment of those taxes cannot be a predicate condition of this particular development. However, that has been brought to the attention of, I have brought that to the attention of E-Collect, and notices are being sent out for unpaid taxes. And my understanding is that based upon our new ordinances, collection efforts will ensue.
So they want us to approve another property, and they ain't paid their taxes on all the other property that they have in the city.
Well, as I indicated, they do want that, and unfortunately, there's nothing which permits us to not approve this particular project based upon unpaid taxes on other parcels.
Well,
We did
not just-
confer with the solicitor's office, to make sure, so we know what our parameters are. It isn't a secret about who they are, but this particular project we're referring to, this is the situation that we inherited. They presented it in February, and the timeline starts, and if we don't get this done and recorded by a certain amount of time, by right, they can just go ahead and develop and build. So we're trying to close something that was on the table, that was done. It literally was reintroduced because there was nothing in the folder that signified that they went before the Planning Commission. And we need that as part of the button-up in order to get their resolution put through. And I had nothing in the folder showing that they went before the Planning Commission, so I had to reintroduce this plan and another plan, the one before this one, Resolution 93, in order for us to be able to execute this resolution so that their plans can be recorded and our time clock is off, because we're way over the time allotted for us to be able to execute land development proposals.
Well, I'm not in agreement with anything that they do. I don't understand how a company can come into the city of Chester and still not pay their taxes, the upkeep on their properties, they are not doing anything. So how do we allow them to keep coming here doing business in our community?
I agree.
And they don't have any kind of accountability?
Yeah, we agree. We just literally had to confer with the solicitor's office to find out what we do, because I literally inherited this when I came back to planning. And we have to execute a land development once we have agreed to take it. I mean, these are conversations you have initially. So what we do is we look up any parcel of anyone that has applied for zoning, for land development, for a fence, for anything. Once they come and give us an application, the very first thing we do is check for taxes for that parcel. I'm sure Peter did that because this parcel was paid. They actually got in default for rubbish in 2023, but he submitted this in February of 2023. Rubbish they owed, but the other ones they did take care of after I did my due diligence. But again, whenever anyone applies, we have to look and make sure that this parcel, we can't like witch hunt over other things, but we have to make sure that we do our due diligence for the parcel that they're applying for, and we also confer with the solicitor's office before we do anything. And
It's not a witch hunt, it's just saying
no, I
that
agree, because we
don't
know,
like
yeah, people
persons
coming
who
in.
have not cooperated with the requirements of the city in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like them I don't like it when they continue to have opportunity.
I
Yes,
agree.
I agree.
So
I don't
we did-
like it.
We did suggest, now that this came up, we did suggest that if there is, if there are parcels and known people, since we have to take applications and one department doesn't really communicate with the other to tell that there are outstanding issues with people, could we get that shared with us so that we won't have to just look at the one parcel? We can actually have a conversation with them. I don't mind telling them that I see that this parcel's taken care of, but I don't know if you're aware that you have 14 West 3rd Street, et cetera. We don't have a problem having that conversation, but it still can't prevent us from taking their application. But if we aren't doing our due diligence and communicating with the person that owes, we are working against ourselves. We didn't know. I mean, we literally are finishing something that was there when we got there.
I understand
Yeah,
that it was
but-
something
But I
that was.
think we could do better departmental-wise at communicating with the issues that we have with different people, different vendors, different applicants, different taxpayers. That conversation doesn't happen.
I
And
don't think they have any intentions on doing right by the city. They have a property that's right next door to mine. They just came out, and I'm assuming now because they want something from the city, they're going to comply as little as they can. So my own personal opinion is I wouldn't trust them to do any kind of business
Right.
here because it's not just that property, it's several properties.
But we just have to do what we legally are supposed to do. And that's why I confer with them, because it wasn't something that it was initiated, it's something that was in the midst. And again, it was reintroduced because I didn't have anything showing it was approved, but it was approved by the Planning Commission, and they told us that verbally. But I didn't have anything written and documented for button-up in order for us to be able to present a resolution to get the plans recorded. So that's why we reintroduced it, and it literally is under 1020 Morton Avenue LLC. That is what a lot of people do, and that's another conversation that we wanted to try to have departmental-wise, because I had to go dig to find out who is 1020 LLC, and I put Gallo Brothers on there when I knew who that was for the LLC. It could have easily said previously 1020 Morton Avenue, and y'all would have just did it. But I think that when we do things, we should go forward with knowing who the root of the people are and not hide behind these LLCs.
Absolutely.
And we also don't have their information in Edmonds and they, when I say they, I mean these LLCs that buy properties, and then they are written under LLC with the address going to the property that they put the LLC in, and they're hiding behind that. And we have to do a better job with our LLC information, make sure that we have in Edmonds, that we have who the LLC is owned by, so that we can do our due diligence when we're doing paperwork, when someone submitted something to us. But we went into this blindly, and we're now in a situation where we have to close this out and have their plans recorded, because they've went through every step, and we are here closing it up, because if not, they'll legally be able to go ahead and build.
Okay,
All right, hold on, hold on. This is
Yeah.
where I have a question.
Yes.
You're saying if it's not closed up on your end, zoning, planning, they can go ahead and build anyway, but this is the last stop for them, right? Council, we can say.
Resolution.
Well,
Yeah,
Let
sorry.
me weigh in on that. If a resolution is not passed and they're not permitted to record plans, this is what's known under the law as a deemed approval. It's already approved, and that creates a host of other problems for us. If they force us to do that, we're subject to legal fees and other liabilities. Time has passed. This is deemed approved in any event. We're doing what's required, and unfortunately, we have to. What happens with a lot of these developers, including Gallo Brothers, is they form an LLC for each particular project, which is a standalone entity, regardless of the other entities that may be delinquent in taxes, and they're permitted to do this. Unfortunately, planning experiences this a lot. We discussed this at length. The engineers experience this a lot. We've discussed this at length, but this particular project is overdue and is potentially technically deemed approved already. So
All right,
whether
all right.
I'm
So-
sorry,
approved
they
or
went
not,
through the
they can-
zoning hearing
They'll just
board?
go and build without any oversight at that point.
All right, so
Not
let
wise.
me just chime in here.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm hearing you saying is this is just a formality for us to vote. No matter how we vote, they can move forward.
Right, but you don't want them to move forward without a resolution and a proper plan recorded, which is what this will permit, which is why Kim has taken these measures, and it's a smart move.
All right, so how could council have stopped this? Would it
Based upon,
have been done at a zoning planning meeting?
well, I'm not certain if council could have stopped this in any event, based upon the fact that this is a standalone LLC, a different entity than the other Gallo properties.
No. You know what, regardless of all the taxes they might owe, rubbish fees they might owe, I don't like the project. So if it just came down to not liking the project, how does council chime in?
So when they have, I'm sorry.
Council can chime in, but if they meet all of the terms and conditions of the zoning and the planning as a matter of right, it doesn't matter whether you like it or not. You can vote no and they'll appeal it. That's what you would do. You would vote no, express your displeasure, vote no, and then they would appeal it, and then in the court of common pleas, they would win it as a matter of right if they're right, if they meet all the terms and conditions. That's what happens.
Now,
All
I
right,
wasn't
thank
in
you.
that department during the time that this was introduced, but they went before the zoning hearing board, and whenever we have a zoning hearing board meeting, whenever we have a planning commission meeting, there is an invitation that goes to mayor and council as well. I implore you, when you see a date for a zoning hearing board meeting and a planning commission meeting, I implore you to come, because these are the things that are getting passed. Mr. Davis was actually on the zoning hearing board for this, so he would know, about this particular adjudication they got. They got relief for several things about this particular development that I don't agree with either, but it's already done, and you got, it went before a hearing and everything. And we, again, came at the end where we have to do what we have to do, but there were things that I probably would have questioned, many things I would have questioned. But we're now at September 9th of 2024, and we needed the resolution. This has been something we have been challenging since I sat down back in February. We've been challenging, which is why it's only coming in September. We have been having colliers go back and forth with things that are necessary and need to be changed, and they've done their due diligence as well in making this as difficult and precise and meticulous as possible. So we are already up against being approved by the commission, being approved by the hearing board. They have adjudications inside their folder. They have every piece of paper that's required for land development inside this folder. So the only thing we can do is do our due diligence, and then we have to get together and do a little better with our communication among.
How much background information does the zoning hearing board have at the time that these applicants come before them? Do we have all this information that these are not very nice people when it comes to,
So-
the work that they do in the city?
So let me just chime. Oh.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
I'm chime in, and I remember this case very well. On the zoning hearing board, we didn't get any of our background information on the company
Sure.
or any late taxes fees, debris fees that they're not paying, anything like that. We just get the application, what's in front of us, all the boxes I guess they have to check off for the process procedures of what they're going through. And to my knowledge, I don't know if we recorded those meetings at the time, but if we did, I would like to go back and see that message.
They only last 60 days. They're gone.
Okay.
I wanted the minutes.
Transparently, it was communicated to me that they were, I'm assuming, well-connected and had some ways to get around, as I'm seeing now,
As
ways
you
to get
see.
around a lot of things. So I guess some of the issues that the zoning hearing board had with the application didn't really matter because, like I said, they checked off all the boxes of what needed to happen and what needed to be done, all the paperwork, like Ms. Garner said. So it was kind of like it would be a personal reason why we would have
That's what I was
denied
about to
them
say. The
rather
only
than a
thing, when you're
business
saying,
reason.
do we know background? We literally have to provide every detail of the application that they're presenting. We can't go into anything outside of this parcel when we have to be completely move forward with integrity as far as the parcel is concerned. That doesn't mean that we all can't communicate departmental-wise and, discuss something that's being proposed. But again, this all happened before we came,
So are we
over here.
saying this damned if we do, damned if we don't
That
at
is
this
exactly
point?
what we're saying.
No.
I know the mayor's saying no, but
This,
Well, I think something else needs to be put in place so that these type of things can't happen.
That's what I'm
If
asking.
not, people just continue to come in here to the city of Chester and do whatever they want to do without complying, do another LLC, and then they're the cause of the problems that we're having. So I'd like to know what we can do to prevent something like this from, in the future.
I have a recommendation. There's a new zoning solicitor. The old zoning solicitor was very good, but there's a new zoning solicitor. And I think that we should meet with the new zoning solicitor in executive session and make certain that council and the mayor and the solicitor's office are apprised of all future projects.
That's moving forward, but
It's moving
in
forward.
terms of this project now, if this is a project that council does not like and council do not want to approve, what are our options?
Your options are to vote no. However, if you vote no, I believe, and I'll certainly check with the zoning solicitor, I believe this is what's known as a deemed approved, it's deemed approved. Whether you vote yes or no.
So it's already
there's a time
approved.
deadline. So what they'll do is they'll proceed with construction, and we won't have a recorded plan. She will not have a complete file, and to me, that's disastrous.
it would be deemed approved according to the zoning.
Yes, according to the planning.
So zoning takes precedence over the council.
Well,
That-
zoning, if you're within your time frame, zoning has, the council has the right to vote no, and then it gets appealed. It's not deemed approved. This is beyond the time deadline. That's the problem with this project. So normally, you could vote no, regardless of what the zoning board says, because you're an independent entity, and then it would get appealed, and you could try the merits of your denial in a court of common pleas. You can't do that here now. You're beyond the timeline in this particular project. So normally, you would have a remedy, and that would be to vote no, and then to proceed to the court of common pleas, at which time I would enter my appearance. They would have an attorney in the zoning board would enter the appearance. Hopefully, your concerns would be addressed, and/or the project would be denied. But
And the
we're not
zoning-
there. That's not this case.
the zoning hearing board is a public, it is a meeting, it is a public meeting, and you could come as mayor, as a council
we
person,
know.
or as a citizen, as a resident, and it is open for public comment.
I've attended those
Right,
before,
you
and I
have.
have
Spoken.
weighed in
That is
as a
correct.
resident on certain things. So I know, we all
Yeah.
know that.
But I will say, even though the notices go up on the polls and.
It's not highly attended at all.
It's not highly attended,
The
and I,
Participation is piss poor, to say the
encourage-
least. I'm gonna be honest with you.
that we do a little better with disseminating information to our constituents, amongst our residents, that we just do a little better, because we all do have input on things that happen in our city. But if we are mute, we're not doing ourselves a service. So when I
So-
say that, is because there are invitations, that have to go out for the meetings, and we're here at the end, but I mean, I implore you to come. I implore you to come and speak, whether it's as a resident or whether it's as a council person.
So you said that this was approved February 2000?
No. Yeah, it was actually presented in
Presented.
February of '23. It went before the zoning hearing board in September of 2023. Yeah.
So this is
For
before any of
adjudication.
us?
That was for relief. Our mayor was here, councilwoman was here, Shaquan was on the board. You two weren't here. That is correct.
So it just kind of got lost in the mix. I don't like the idea that someone can just
agree.
come in and do whatever they want and we don't have a say about it. And I mean, I know it's 2023 and we're in '24, but we just have to find a different way because it's not acceptable.
So when a project is filed, property owners within 500 feet or some distance are all notified by mail. There's an advertisement. And I'm going to suggest, going forward, not in this case, obviously, that I meet with the solicitor, we meet with the solicitor, and we're apprised on a summary basis of each project going forward. In this particular project, we might want to ask the developer, before we vote on this, to come into council and present the project, see if they would, if council has any questions.
I mean, you are our legal representative.
Well, I mean,
They
I'm
did
just
go,
throwing it out there if they really want to hear about it. but-
They
but
did
it
go
doesn't change
before
what's
on-
potentially deemed approved, to be honest.
I know, they have adjudication and,
I'm not gonna agree to it at all.
I think something that we may be missing, overlooking, not considering enough is what the project is and where it is, regardless of the builder, what they're building and where they're building it. I'm glad you mentioned that people within 500 feet get notices that this thing is coming. It's a 6-story storage facility. It's the place that you go when you're moving and you want to store your furniture, or, you have to move. The city does not need a storage location, a storage facility, period. There's a new one just built in Eddystone. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Cities are getting dumped on with storage facilities and warehouses. Like, this is stuff that we have to pay close attention to, and we're learning, get in on the front end when they do work their way inside of City Hall. What really troubles me about this project, even if a storage facility was to go up in the city, is just the location.
I
It
agree
is
with you.
right next door to somebody's house.
I agree with you.
I mean,
Yeah.
if those people aren't going to come out and represent themselves, and they may have got the notice and it might have been confusing or
They
didn't
actually
know
get
about
letters
it.
in their mail, as well as we put postings on all the polls to invite them to come,
Right.
and that they're going to come before the zoning hearing board, and the date that it goes before the board. And that's how it works. You can be open to public comment, and I've seen people come up and lose it and, express their concern about whatever is being proposed. I've seen that happen, and I've seen it not go, but I've also seen it the other way, where people don't attend, and there's no one contesting it, there's no one challenging it, there's no one asking them questions, and that's what happens. But we have to be impartial in doing our due diligence. I'm talking about with planning and zoning, but departments can discuss. And again, I said
It's a
I
council
knew-
lady's point that people could come in this town and do whatever they want. That's not true.
That's true.
They
that's
came
not-
into town and they went through planning and zoning strategically, surgically, to do everything right. So they're not doing anything wrong. They're just doing it without any oversight, without any resistance, without any, comments, other than like right now when it's clearly too late. This sort of reminds me of when Pulaski School was knocked down and they were clearing the land for the Access Center at the same time. The neighbors on 7th Street complained that they didn't know what was going on. And when there was a public meeting with, ironically, Jack Sargent, who put the Access Center in there, the neighbors were made aware that the posters were up on the fence across the street, and they probably got notices in their door. And our engineer at the time, Mike Galante, who was answering that question, just made mention of the fact that in a city like Philadelphia, those notices would have gone to the neighborhood block captain or ward lead, or somebody that was affiliated with city government, that would have gone the extra mile to have
advocate.
made those residents more aware of what was going on. So that's, really what the block captain piece is going to start to accomplish. Find people on the blocks that we can communicate directly to. So when things like this happen, there's, direct communication to the neighbors. But this is a serious lesson learned for all of us moving forward. Thank you, zoning and planning, for doing your part.
Taking things. We are literally going down, having deep conversations about different concerns that we have as we're taking our applications, not just tax stuff. I'm talking about concerns, period, about the neighborhood, how it affects it. We don't have to approve something because it's a P next to that zoning district. We can take it at our discretion to turn something down because of a safety issue we might be concerned about, or the way they've unkept other things. You can do that, but for this, we came in it was 89% done, and we just saw things weren't in the folder in order for us to be comfortable with trying to get their plans recorded. So we had to make sure that we got it reintroduced to the commission so we can, without the planning commission's approval, we can't do a final plan resolution. So we had to re-present this, and they were like, oh yeah, I remember. I personally have worry about the traffic. The way people fly around that curve up and down, but
This is the storage unit that's going to be at the intersection by the highway.
not an intersection though.
not-
Yeah, it's going to be
I know
in
exactly.
that
what you're talking about.
curve between Chestnut and,
Yeah. If they have the transcriptions from that meeting, if we could please find it, let me know, because that was one of my biggest questions too. You had just touched on it, but the traffic.
that was
how they-
my worry.
I had a lot of questions about this project, but like I said, at the time, it was presented that, you know, they had some other, I guess, other ways of getting things done that superseded the zoning hearing board. Like I said, that wasn't well attended, anything like that. So I remember this project.
So this
pretty well.
folder is not complete. I
Yeah.
don't have any minutes. We don't use the people that do our minutes now, our stenographer. This was a whole frustrating treasure hunt.
And not
Pretty
only
much.
that, as you know, we reimagined Chester and we moved Chester forward.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't want to see that on one of our main corridors, people getting in and off the highway. We want to,
It's gonna be a
you
problem.
know, it's a lot wrong with
This
this
literally
project.
is in a
I don't know.
residential district.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. Again, I wasn't here when it was presented, but it went through all of the paperwork that they had to do in order to get a variance, in order for us to give them relief for the things that we were not, it says a no for, and they got relief. I wasn't at that meeting, I wasn't, in that department, but they did checked all the boxes that they had to do in order for this
Ms.
to be
Hall,
put through.
I see you. You have something to say on this project? Because I see you over there.
Everything you say, there is a process that should have happened.
Can you come to the mic for the recording?
So I agree with everything that is being said by council and mayor. There is a process that should have happened. There is, and city solicitor spoke on it after a while of everybody asking, what could have been done. There is a process in order to try to stop a project that you do not agree with moving forward. And it definitely starts, what they have in Philadelphia, which Mayor Roos kind of spoke on, is they do have community, it's called recognized community organizations. And each community there has to be like 12 of them, depending on the area. And also, they have a community leader in those organizations. And typically when a project like this is presented, they have to get approval by the recognized community organization, and they have to present to them. They also have to get an approval letter from council before it even goes to the zoning board. I don't know why it would have gone to the zoning board unless it didn't meet some criteria. So y'all spoke of it going to the zoning board?
Good.
Typically, it doesn't meet criteria, which is why it goes to the zoning
I
board.
think it was a variance.
Correct. And so that's a strong thing that we have to not allow a project to move forward, because they had to apply for a variance, which means they have to go to the RCO in Philadelphia. We probably should create that here. However we're going to do it, block captains, they have to get a letter from the mayor, they might have to get a letter from the council people that control that area. And it's a long, drawn-out process if you want to stop someone from doing a project that you don't agree with. When I heard about the project, I had the same thought process. They're putting a storage community in our residential area. Why can't they find somewhere else to do it? Maybe we could have spoke to them about looking for other areas to do it, where our industrial area is. So
there are things that could have been done. I guess it's too late at this point, is what you're saying.
It appears to be.
But we definitely need to speak about the things that we should be doing to stop some of this happening.
Thank you.
Mr. Solicitor, is there something else that you could look into to find out if there are any other options?
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear based on the time deadline that the clock has ticked. I mean, there's not much to look into. We've all looked at it, everyone in planning, zoning, myself. And, you know, once that planning meeting occurs and then a zoning board grants a variance, I mean, there's like 30 days to appeal it. It's now a year. I mean, it's just very clear. There's not much to look into. I mean, I can, if you want to provide me with the file, Kim, I'll look at it, but I think we did. I did. And I can't think of it off the top of my head. I can't think of anything else, Council.
All right. Any other topics we want to speak on, council? All right, I got one. The very first one, that's bill number 6, the one-way street. Congress Street, I believe it is. Let me see. The only question I have, and that, I don't know if zoning and planning, did you guys get involved in this one-way street? I didn't think so. You did? Come on up for a sec. You better.
This is between Jeffrey and Yarnell. Yes.
We call it Yarnell.
Yarnell.
You can call it Yarnell. You're new.
Well, I don't have the wording in front of me, Mr. Mayor.
No, the only issue was that the residents, 11, just so everybody knows, 11 out of 12 of the households on that single block signed a petition that they wanted that to become a one-way street, primarily because it's really narrow. And although each house has a driveway and a garage, there's still people who park on the sidewalks on each side, and you can only get one vehicle through when that's the case. So I'm really happy to see that we've come this far to get that one-way street designation. They wanted the one-way from Jeffrey to Yarn. You almost got me saying it, to Yarnell. But when I see northeast direction, I can only imagine that's Yarnell to Jeffrey. I was just curious why that was. Was it random, or did they not hear me, or the neighbors?
I'm not sure, Mayor. I apologize. I know you brought this to my attention a few weeks ago, a month ago, maybe even a little more than a month ago, and I brought it to our engineer. I believe he was already aware of it, and I'm not sure why that direction was chosen. I can't speak to that specifically.
Okay, so I'm going to try to.
Sure.
All right, so on the Yarnell side, yeah, this, what is officially a street, behind the church there on the Yarnell Street side, it becomes a back alley. On the Jeffrey Street side, there's just a row of homes that kind of terminates right there. So I'm thinking if traffic is traveling on Congress Street from the west-south side of town, it gets that one more block of now one way before it terminates at the row of homes, as opposed to stopping right at Yarnell.
And then forcing them to go around.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the only thing I can think of, which would make sense if somebody told me that was the reason. The neighbors aren't mad. They were just, as my wife would say, they're not complaining. They just want an explanation. They're not complaining. They're just explaining. That's how she says it. So if we can get that answer, that's fine. It's not a game changer at all, but I do want to get back to them as to why the traffic is flowing in that direction and not the one they requested.
Absolutely.
But they're very happy, very
Great.
happy.
I'm glad to hear it.
Thanks.
No problem.
Oh, you know what? Just really quickly, the gymnasium that's being built on to the community center. There's a playground there. Is it next to there?
It's,
Like, is it going to be on the actual building that's currently existing, or is it going to be a separate
Is it
parcel?
addition?
Like,
Yeah, Councilman Green, it will be attached to that existing
it
building.
will be attached to it?
On the east
Okay.
side of it, yes. Yep.
I just want to, I know it's supposed to be like some townhouses going up. I don't know when or if that project's still going on. So I wasn't sure if we was taking more space from that or.
No,
how does
that's
it-
actually further east where that's planned. On
Okay.
Old Plaski's
The old
property.
Pulaski, right.
Yeah, Pulaski.
Which they're next to each other.
They are, they abut each other,
yeah.
yes. Yep.
Basically, if you take that whole track, you can almost split it right in half.
Okay.
And the one half where the school was is where the houses are gonna go.
Right.
And, from that half to Booth Street is the access center. They've added their playground, and not on the 7th Street side, but on the, if you will, the 9th Street side of what their lot is where they're gonna put their gymnasium.
We were presented a proposal from CCIP, but it was just kind of like a conversation. We haven't had any tangible plans or anything yet for the project you referred to.
The townhouse?
Housing. Yeah, we haven't.
I
gotten
thought that was, wasn't, okay.
And they're actually proposing a road as a very conceptual plan through that center of the property, like the mayor's saying. So
Oh,
it'll literally
the-
be two
Okay.
separate areas.
I would like to see that.
Yeah.
Sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and it has not been submitted yet, but when it goes in front of the planning commission, we'll definitely let you know. And hopefully they go through a sketch plan process, which is early enough to actually make substantial comments and potential changes.
Thank you.
Okay, yep.
So just to reiterate, 21 total houses, but we're just talking about phase 1 right now, which will be 10. We're going to start with 10 and then do the other 11 in the phase 2.
And got 2 million for it so far. A little over 2 million? Nice.
The real question you should ask is, how short are we on funds before we
Right.
can get this thing started? So if you didn't hear, what she said is there's still some costs that have to be determined, and that will determine what the delta is between what they have and what they need. And we're going to try to, once you get that number, we'll try to find you some money, because there's a couple people who want to help out. Yeah. Thank you. And we're not talking about R91, but I think many people would be surprised how much crime occurs at Harrah's Casino. There's a lot. There's a lot. You don't read a lot about it, and they keep it hush-hush quite a bit, as they should. But when there's crime, there has to be crime fighters. The casinos are kind of under the protection of state police, but we also have our local police, and apparently what this authorizes are local operating procedures so they can better work together at taking care of the crime that occurs at Harrah's Casino. If there's anybody who knows about this crime, is your husband and your dad, because I know they get those cases over at district court just about every week. So if anybody wants to sit in district court and hear those stories, that's the place to sit for a day or two. One thing about Harrah's is if a crime is committed, it's on camera, but it still doesn't mean crimes don't get committed. Anything else from council? How about directors? There he is. You're the only hand, so the only finger.
Only finger. I just want to remind you of two things. One is the I-95-322 interchange project, which includes the sound barrier walls. There's been emails circulating. There's 2 public meetings on Monday and Tuesday next week. One is at the Mission Vine Center, the True Vine Missionary, excuse me. And then the other one's in City Hall on the Tuesday. Both are from 4:30 to 6:30. It's an open house session. Hopefully the public will attend. The word's been spreading. At Wednesday's meeting, I hope to have these postcards for the public to pick up on the outside, which talk more about the project. And then related to that, on Thursday, I believe all of you have been invited to an officials summary meeting, which is really just an update on where that project stands. I'll probably talk about these meetings and upcoming requirements related to that project. So that'll be on Thursday. I think it's at 11, yeah, at 11 o'clock on Thursday. So if you're not aware of that, let me know and I'll get it on your calendar. And then the second thing relates to the Planning Commission and Zoning Hearing Board. There are no meetings this month. But as Kim had said, in future meetings, we hope to have like some narratives on what the upcoming projects would be. So when you see an email from us about the meetings, we would give you some background information. So you would know if it's worth coming or not, or if the project is, you're interested in hearing more about, would be on the agenda, including maybe the housing down the line. So.
You have a postcard?
I do.
Can
yeah.
I see that?
Yes, you may. Yes.
Well, you can just hold it up because that came in my door in my mailbox at home. So I'm sure it was sent to many of the addresses, if not all. The second thing I want to say is they had a meeting or a community gathering, I don't know, feels like 2 months ago at the Access Center. It's PennDOT who is getting this information. It was probably one of the better public information gathering sessions I've ever been in. So believe me, it won't be a waste of your time. They have a great way of pulling it out of you. What you want to see, how do you want the roads to go, what on-ramps, off-ramps should be closed, which lanes. I mean, they really were engaging, and it was almost fun to be in that session. So please, if you can make it, get your neighbors to make it. It won't be a waste of time. So again, they talk about the sound barriers that are coming all up and down 95, the interchange with 322 coming into 95 and trying to get trucks or cars from 322 to Commodore Barry Bridge in 3/4 of a mile without running over everybody. They know all the pain points in the general area, and they just want to hear from us before they go and do final plans, and they are listening. They are listening.
And I'll just reiterate, that's right, it's a PennDOT run project. They're responsible for all the community engagement, so it's important to know that. And then the second thing is, for the sound barrier wall system, there's a first phase to that, and that's between Madison and Melrose only. It's 5 or 6 blocks. That is the one that we're going to have to engage the public on the most because there's going to need to be a vote on that from adjacent residents. All that will be explained at these upcoming open houses, so I encourage you to find out more there. So.
I believe we were in the same meeting. That's the meeting that we had on Zoom.
Yep.
It was very detailed, and they are willing to speak with community members, because I asked the question, how are we going to market the meetings? And so they said that they would come out, they want the input of community members to see if they really want it.
And they're still open to ideas for getting the word out. So if you think of something over the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, let us know, and we'll get back to them with those ideas. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
And as council, beware. I don't know if you guys were here when they came in and gave a presentation. It might have been late last year. But the question was asked, as PennDOT goes around, they have to get permission from the homeowners
Yes.
to put this wall up. And if the homeowners say yes, then it's a go. If they say no, then it's a no. So the question was asked was, do we have a say as council? And the answer was pretty much no. It's really going to come down to the neighbors on these blocks. just to give you a scenario that could get really crazy, was that Forwood Street? That street right in Highland Gardens that's one step away from the highway. A wall is, or a sound barrier is proposed to go there. In order for the sound barrier to be built there would require closing down the street that leads to the front door of all these homes. I'm not sure if they have a back alley or not.
They do not.
But you can imagine that those homeowners will probably say, I don't want my street cut off for the next 2 months, because PennDOT is not going to shut down a lane on I-95 to build this. They're going to shut down that street. So, you know, it's going to be a sales job by, you know, a lot of people to get some of these sound barriers where they really belong. Or we have to come up with some alternative, maybe moving people out for a couple months, or okay. Is that what I just said?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we have to come up with something in advance, So
I believe they said, in the meeting they said the homeowners and the residents.
well, what they meant by that was there could be properties that are rentals, you know, so the homeowner is actually the landlord, the resident is the tenant.
Right.
So, yeah, the tenants would have say as well, like
Right.
over the landlord. But it's going to be a tricky process.
And PennDOT, I will say, just from the 2 years I was in Public Works, they're not that great at communicating time frames, so you got to stay on them. You'll get something approved, they'll say that they're about to build, or they're about to dig, or they're about to open a street, and then 7 months later, you just wake up and it's going on, you know, so, Andrew's still here? Now, I implore Andrew to stay on the phone and talk to them, because from working with them, you know, previously, the years I was helping Miss Portia, they're not that great. It's their street. I know it's your city, but it's their street, and they got all of the permissions, and they will open it when they feel like it. So you want to stay on them. But what I wanted to tell you to further about the communication we just had about 1020 Morton Avenue. When I came back over here, there were actually 7 projects that were on the table that were in the midst of Mike Galante exiting, Collier's coming in, me being here. We were going to have a planner didn't come. I finally got Paul in June, and as I was looking through folders and trying to make sure stuff was buttoned up and trying to find a solution, because this one was blaring to me, 1020 Morton Avenue. But when you look at all of the paperwork and all of the stuff that's required for button-up, it was so far gone, you know, to interject when they've already gotten adjudications, they've already got planning commission approval, everything. Everyone's been invited to it. I looked to see through Peter emails, and people were invited to the meeting. I'm like, how do you, you know, do what you do? So Collier's went more meticulous and gave them 6 pages of stuff that they had to comply with. And they ended up having to meet that, which is how we're at September. But what I did want to say is we went a little further, because some people in the zoning hearing board might not do their due diligence, or planning commission. So we went a step further and decided to execute a letter that explains all of the concerns that we have, supported with the ordinance, and things that could be a problem with it, so that it would enable them to help with better questions when the people present before them. Because we can't speak, I can only walk them through what the agenda says, and then they have to execute their own meeting. So we're taking it a step further with pretty much breaking down the ordinance and where they are, what is going on in that area, pictures of that area from corner to corner, where the drain spouts are. Like, we're literally breaking it down so that they can have better questions to help us on our end with making better decisions, because I think we're making decisions because you said my motion, and then they said, well, she's been here longer than me, so I second. But with having better information, and again, we had our zoning hearing board go to courses since I came back here. They all went to get some courses to know and make better decisions on our things that are being presented to us too. But we trying. But I know the ones that I have that were here on the table, we're doing everything we can to try to get them done legally, whatever we can do, as best I can. I mean, as best we can. It is, this one is frustrating, but I tried to stop it.
attest to that.
Yeah, I tried to do whatever I could, but I'm literally where we are now.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna speak up for PennDOT for a second. Yeah, you do have to stay on them, but their schedules are they flex a lot because they chase emergencies. So, you know, the really one thing you really want out of PennDOT on anything is dedicated funding for a project. If you get that, you're golden. What you're not golden on is when it's going to get done. And if there's an emergency, a bridge outage, a street collapse, a sinkhole, they're going to run and get that done with the resources that they have. So, you know, that's really the effort. If you have anything PennDOT related, get the money for your project, because once you get the money, it's going to get done, but you never know when. You never know when. They promised me an Exit 6 project. They laid it out. We're going to close it. Boom. And I got the T-shirt and everything. I'm ready to go down there and take a picture, and that was like 3 months ago. So they're, ain't that right, Just? But we have a great relationship. I think you've met with them recently. I think we have a better relationship with PennDOT than the city has had for a long, long time. So anything streets related, you know, Public Works would be the first place to go. But if we need to get with PennDOT, they're a phone call away. They have a new regional director who's very very accessible, and their region is up in King of Prussia, so they're not far away. If we need to bum rush them, we can hop in the car and go get them. Anything from directors? Anything else? Oh, come on up here.
This is when your memory works, but I can't remember if I read it or not. Are we familiar with Act 90?
No.
So Act 90 is the Neighborhood Blight Reclamation and Revitalization Act. It gives municipalities in Pennsylvania the power to take legal action against property owners who are considered a public nuisance or who violate building codes. That went into effect of April of 2011, whereas municipalities can place liens on personal property of property owners. Also, there is a permit denial that falls underneath here, saying that municipalities can deny building permits and zoning approvals to property owners who are behind on taxes or who have other properties in violation. So I don't know if that's something we need to get out to the zoning and those boards, or you all need to brief yourself on it also on Act 90.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can you send that to all of us?
I remember, it seems like I read something. And I'm trying to
Thank you.
remember why I remembered that. That's something that's
Thank you. No, our developers know these acts better than we do, and that's why they set up their separate LLCs and ghost companies and stuff. But we got to be one step ahead of them, or at least on the same page. Tracy, what you got? Okay. Nobody puts more steps in City Hall than Tracy. All right, gang, I think we're done here. Anything, Mr. Solicitor? Council directors, thank you so much. Great meeting. Meeting adjourned.